If you're reading this, you're gay, LMAO, notices bulges, right? Oh, Bella Ciao.
Explain to them what noticing bulges is.
Hey guys, so it has been nearly a week since Charlie Kirk was assassinated while speaking at an event in Utah, and we have an alleged suspect in custody, and that man's name is Tyler Robinson. Now, Tyler Robinson is 22 years old, he's white, and his family is registered Republican. So based on this and some other facts that I'm going to get into, this new narrative is emerging in the media that Tyler Robinson is actually a right-wing shooter, that he was further to the right of Charlie Kirk, and so that is what motivated the assassination. Now, I want to get into why this is a totally absurd claim based on the evidence that we have, based on what we know about Tyler Robinson. But first, let's look at this video of Kyle Kulinski basically putting forward the left-wing position, which is that it is a near certainty that the shooter was right-wing.
All right, y'all, I got a whole bunch of breaking news here for you. To be honest, we're playing catch-up because for the past, I don't even know how long it's been now, 2 or 3 days, we've been talking a lot about the shooting of Charlie Kirk. So there's a lot of stuff that I got to catch you up on. But first, let me give you the updates on the Charlie thing. So more and more information is coming in, and the more that comes in, the more clear it is. The shooter was right-wing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not really hard to figure out. It's not really up in the air. It's not really a matter of opinion anymore. The guy was right-wing. In fact, he was very, very right-wing. So if you want more information on this, go to the previous video that I just dropped where we go over a lot of the facts that had already come out about him. But bottom line is, he was either registered unaffiliated or registered Republican. I say we don't fully know because there's like a million Tyler Robinsons in this country. But there's some reporting he's unaffiliated. There's some reporting he's Republican. But now we're learning that some of the furthest right-wing people in the country are beginning to be afraid he's affiliated with them. So
okay, so he's either registered unaffiliated or he's registered Republican. Well, that's an enormous difference because one is Republican and one is not. But I just wanted to show this video to you to set up the claim that a lot of leftists are adopting, and I think they're adopting it because it's convenient and they don't want to examine, you know, their own words and their own sentiments that might have inspired, acts of violence like this. And unfortunately, this narrative seems to be working. So there was a recent YouGov poll, and they asked people, as far as you know, is the person who shot Charlie Kirk a Republican, a Democrat, neither, not sure? Now, most people said not sure. 40% said not sure. But 24% of people said they think he's a Republican, as compared to 21% of people think he's a Democrat. And if you look at the specific numbers for, Democrats who answered the poll versus Republicans who answered the poll, a whole lot more Democrats want to believe that this guy is a Republican. Okay, so now with some context out of the way, I want to turn to one of our favorite people to react to on this show, and that is Mr. Don Lemon. So Don Lemon had a guest on to discuss the evidence for Tyler Robinson's political affiliations, and the segment is hilarious because they get everything wrong. And I think that's probably what happens when you get two middle-aged, very out-of-touch men trying to explain kind of niche internet phenomenon. But I also wonder how much they are manipulating the available evidence to suit their own narrative. But I will let you decide that.
Ed, you are racist. I can't believe. I'm like, well, I'm only saying the truth and what the actual stats show. But let's talk about some of the things. And I watched you today and you did a very good explanation of this. So if you look at his social media postings and other things, he had at least some association or affinity or fascination or interest in this Groyper group. And that is a racist group, isn't it? And which would lead you to believe that he's actually not a leftist but go on, you explain.
So all this information is still coming out, folks, and we just look at the evidence of our eyes and we're connecting the dots. I want to remind everyone that Nick Fuentes, 2.5 years ago, the leader of the Groyper movement, a man who said Hitler was based, an America First Christian nationalist who is against immigrants, who against people of color, who wants America to be a white Christian nation, who promotes anti-Semitic conspiracies, who thinks that Charlie Kirk was not pro-white enough and right-wing enough. A man, Nick Fuentes, who leads the Groypers, which we'll talk about in a second, came into fame in the right wing because he used to troll Charlie Kirk and the Turning Point USA. Because, folks, Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk were not right enough for him.
Okay, so he says they are connecting the dots, but they are not drawing a clear picture. It looks like spaghetti. He's kind of right about the Groypers. I think I'm just laughing because it's so utterly hilarious to hear these guys that take themselves so seriously say the word Groyper or based. But yeah, Groypers, and I guess I'm saying it too, are to the right of Charlie Kirk. But there's just there is no good evidence that Tyler Robinson was at all affiliated with this movement. I'll remind you that Tyler Robinson lived with his, trans boyfriend. He lived with a guy that was attempting to transition into a woman. So, I mean, you could argue that that's right-wing connoted, but as far as I know, it's really not. And beyond that, we also have the messages that were written on the bullet casings, but they're going to talk about that, so I will get into why they are utterly misinterpreting what's going on there.
That Nick Fuentes. Yesterday, Don, because I'm a masochist who's been following this for a while, Nick Fuentes, when he went on his stream, do you know how many people were on his stream channel yesterday watching him?
I'm sure there were hundreds of thousands.
200,000. That Nick Fuentes, 2.5 years ago, dined with Donald Trump. Donald Trump dined with Nick Fuentes and post-anti-Semitic Kanye West. Donald Trump said, I had no idea who he was. After they told him this man is a racist, nativist, bigot, anti-LGBTQ extremist who is further to the right than Charlie Kirk, who used to troll Charlie Kirk, who used to call Charlie Kirk a fascist, who used to troll Ben Shapiro. Why, oh, why did you dine with Nick Fuentes? Will you condemn him? It's been 2.5 years, Don. And I hope any reporter who's watching, ask Donald Trump, do you finally condemn Nick Fuentes, the leader of the Groyper army, whom you dined with 2.5 years ago? Groypers, folks, is the name of this movement of these nativist, racist, neo-Nazi white nationalists.
Of these nativist, racist Mexicans. Right? Isn't Nick Fuentes kind of Mexican? I would just assume because of the last name. I also like the comment about the post-anti-Semitism Kanye West. Like it's like BC versus AD. Okay, anyway, I will continue.
Or further to the right of Charlie Kirk, who have exploded online in the past several years. Their avatar is Pepe the Frog. You know, that frog who sits like this? By the way, the shooter, Tyler Robinson, the suspect, what was his Halloween costume a few years ago? Pepe the Frog, right? Thank you, you got it. The engravings, the memes that everyone's talking about that are on the bullets, people are like, what is he talking about? That language, if you're reading this, you're gay, LMAO, notices bulges, right? Oh, Bella Ciao.
Explain to them what noticing bulges is.
Explain to the audience what noticing bulges is, Don Levin says. I mean, this is incredible stuff. Okay, but no, Pepe the Frog is not the avatar of Nick Fuentes. And Pepe the Frog is very well known. It is hardly a niche right-wing thing at this point. To claim that Tyler Robinson dressing up as Pepe the Frog is somehow an indication of his affinity for Nick Fuentes and the Groypers is ridiculous. The specific Pepe the Frog meme that he's referencing in this photo is making fun of Eastern Europeans because they like to squat in their tracksuits and smoke cigarettes, which I think is cool, by the way. I'm totally pro all of that. That's fine. But you could find plenty of Pepes. I'm sure you could find a Mexican Pepe. I'm sure you could find a Kamala Harris Pepe. Plenty exist. People manufacture them at scale. So this is not an indication of anything besides being online, having access to a computer, and being somewhat interested in internet memes, which we do know the suspect was, but the memes that he's referencing are not far-right memes. If anything, they are associated with specific weird, deviant subcultures like furryism. So the whole notices bulge thing, and then it says OWO, which is like this little face. If you write it down, it'll look like a face. That is a reference apparently to this copy and paste text that goes around that originated with like furries and all sorts of weird sexual stuff. It's sort of difficult and weird to explain, but take my word for it that is not a neo-Nazi dog whistle by any means.
This
Noticing
anti-trans.
bulges, OWO, what's this, is a phrase in the gamer community, but recently it has, if you will, been hijacked by the groyper community. For bulges, they're literally noticing bulges, so they call it transvestigating. When it comes to hey fascist catch, and you had that up arrow, right arrow, 3 down arrows, that is a reference to Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is a video game, and this guy was a huge video gamer, played Helldivers 2. I don't know if you saw this fantastic movie called Starship Troopers, directed by Paul Verhoeven. It was a send-up on fascism, right? It was a send-up on militarism. Helldivers 2 is a game where it's a satire on fascism, where you actually play as the bad guys. But when you do up arrow, right arrow, 3 down arrows, you drop a bomb. So it's, hey, fascist, catch this bomb, right? And the bomb being, of course, this bullet. And then the homophobia, which is just rampant. If you're reading this, you're gay, LMAO. All over 4chan, all over Groypers.
LMAO. I don't know how he's getting through this with a straight face, so I maybe give him credit for that. But he's ignoring the part where it says, hey, fascist, catch. So the implication is obviously that Charlie Kirk is a fascist and that this is a bad thing because, he's killing him. I mean, there is no other interpretation there. As for the homophobia, I think that it's probably, one of those ironic things. A lot of people are under the perception that Charlie Kirk hates gay people. And so by writing this on the bullet, it's obviously an attempt to make fun of him and demean him and diminish the value of his life as, the shooter takes it.
In fact, they got the governor of Utah, if he was reading, remember that he was reading this all out? They were laughing on 4chan because he said the thing. What was the thing? He said, if you're reading this, you're gay, LMAO. Now, a lot of people, Don, are looking at this like, what the hell is all this? This is the subculture, the online culture that has radicalized white men, predominantly, not exclusively, and furthermore been co-opted by the right wing. QAnon also came from the...
Okay, we're not going to listen to their rambling theories anymore because I think that suffices and we got the funny part out of the way. But yes, people are seizing on the fact that he's white, that he was into these internet memes, that he came from a Republican family to suggest that he is totally right-wing. Now, what they're not talking about is all the evidence, and there's plenty that the alleged shooter was left-wing, if you want to call it that. At this point, I feel like a spectrum doesn't really encapsulate all the, weird emergent ideologies in America. But for example, Kash Patel said that in the course of their, brief investigation thus far, they discovered that the shooter subscribed to left-wing ideologies. There were conversations that the shooter had about how much he hated Charlie Kirk, about how he thought that Charlie Kirk was a hateful guy. And of course, there's the fact that Tyler Robinson was living with a transgender guy, was living with a guy who wanted to be a woman. And I just don't know how you square that fact that Tyler Robinson was kissing and holding hands and doing whatever else with this guy, with this transvestite, with Tyler Robinson being right-wing. I mean, that is just extraordinarily difficult to believe. I'm sure someone out there has done it. People are weird, but it does not seem likely that this guy, based on everything we know, based on what Kash Patel has said about, his family's remarks, based on who he lived with, that he was right-wing. I just don't buy it. But a lot of people, unfortunately, are buying into this narrative. Like I said, there was that YouGov poll, and there are people like Lawrence Tribe tweeting things like, Kirk's apparent assassin seems to have been ultra MAGA, exploding the GOP MAGA attempts to pin the blame for this tragedy on liberals. It's just bizarre. I mean, if anyone was ultra MAGA, that person would be Charlie Kirk. He was he was extremely identified with Donald Trump, with Donald Trump's 2024 presidential victory. I mean, to say that, you know, being ultra MAGA motivated the shooting of someone who was a fervent supporter of Donald Trump is absurd. And they are attempting to manufacture reality right before our eyes. I hate that it's working. And I also, and this is a smaller thing, but I also hate calling the assassination a tragedy. I mean, you could call a flood a tragedy. You could call a hurricane a tragedy. And obviously, the circumstances of what happened were extremely tragic. But I think that characterizing it that way has the tendency to obscure the intentionality and violence of the act. Like, Charlie Kirk was not just a random victim. He was specifically chosen and taken out, and there is good evidence that he was taken out for his political beliefs and for being too effective and for sharing them too publicly. But let me know what you think about Don Lemon and Co. in the comments section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.